I'd like to call Independent School District 721 to order. Please note all members are here except Matt Golddaddy. And it is 6 p.m. So, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I have Tony Boothie for Spotlight of Success.
Good evening, School Board and Superintendent Dittburner. For the last few months, Superintendent Dittburner has been having different schools and/or departments come in and just give a real quick, brief update. And this month is the Educational Services Department. So I have Marin Baller also with me, and we'll just got a few quick slides. But I do want to just say the school year has really got off to a really good start in all of our buildings. And when I say all of them, I mean all three elementaries, middle school and high school. And what I did last week and today was just visit with a lot of our administrators. And they're just telling me about all the positive things that have been happening and a lot of the preparation that took place over the summertime. They're very, very happy about that. So I don't have anything specifically from each building. When they come through in the next few months, they'll be able to tell you that. Just some good things for you to know, and I want to bring up just kind of standard things, but we did have our workshop week. We had 2 of them. We had 3 days with our new teachers. We welcomed 24 new teachers this year, all the way from preschool up through our transition program and special education. They were welcome, and we provided them with a lot of different information and knowledge. We had 4 days of workshop for all of our normal staff, and that again was spread out over the workshop week. We finished with our annual staff picnic. I do believe a few of you were there, and a nice program. So workshop week, I think it was a great way for our school year to start, and everybody always has a good time with that, seeing each other. Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Congratulations, Mark, to your dad going in. And that is Thursday, October 6th. Just an FYI for all of you, and since we're on the TV, letting everyone know that is open to the public. At 6:30 we have a ceremony. And at 7 o'clock, we go into the high school auditorium where we actually have the ceremony. So 6:30 is a social. Duck Cup Memorial speakers, that's been a big thing for our school district probably the last 5 to 6 years. And they continue to keep supporting all of our students. We do have them coming up in the 25th and 26th of October at our middle school and high school. And then in the first week of November, they're actually bringing a speaker back for our 5th grade. So when I say for us, they're also doing local school districts around us, and they pair those up and group those up. District strategic plan, as you're very aware, I just wanted to kind of let you know that our 2-year process is completed. It is totally completed and on paper now. And as Superintendent Dittburner has meetings with all of our administration, and we have the principals meetings, we will continue to be discussing, working with, and utilizing that document that was created. And last but not least, this is homecoming week, and sorry, Mr. Dittburner, if I took that from you for your good news things, but we've got a very busy week this week, and hopefully that you can take part in some of the events. Equity inclusion updates has been a big part of our summer, been a big part of our fall, and has gone very, very well. And what I mean by that is just work. And the community task force, and I think we've actually got a couple members behind me. Our community task force, which met 3 times last spring, will be reconvening again this fall, and there are 3 Wednesdays starting in October, November, and December. And again, we've got a couple people on the board that are part of that, so we're very excited to have Dr. Wagner facilitate that again as we go. High school class presentations, all 9th through 12th grade students. We had a student voices video that was created last spring with a number of our high school students, and our high school admin, along with Mr. Fulton, our equity coordinator, and the counselors have been going into all the classrooms and just talking with the kids, showing the video, and answering a lot of questions and having a lot of good discussions. And Ms. Adams, Mr. Fulton are very, very happy with how those have gone. Native American groups will begin this fall, and Maren can maybe shed a little bit more light on that.
Sure. So that is funded through our funding from MDE for our Native student population. And so we have consultants who will be coming in and working with our students again. This started last winter, and we're excited to continue it again for all Native students in grades 6 through 12, and it will be held during the school day.
And Martina Wagner is our professional development leader. She is the person that has come in, and she not only is she the community task force, but we also had her work with all of our elementary, middle school, and high school teaching staff in the area of equity and inclusion, and she's done a real nice job for us. And we'll have her coming back in November and March. We picked up some posters over the summertime. There was an equity and an inclusion workshop in Prior Lake, and some of the information that we received there were some things that our principals and all district administration took a look at. The biggest thing is a sign that says interrupt and educate, and that's one of the presenters that we had this summer, and she really talked about the best ways to do that. An equity statement was worked on by administration this summer and rolled out this fall, and we've been utilizing that with all of our staff and students. And then last but not least, Mr. Skogerbo, Mr. Fulton, Ms. Adams has been meeting with all of our fall coaches, athletes, just having great conversations with them as students from every school district come into our city and our schools, and when we also get on the bus and go to other places. Just having great conversations with them and just appropriate actions and things like that. Okay?
From the curriculum and instruction side of things, we have new science standards that we're working through with grades K through 6. They're currently implementing. Next year, 7th grade will be implementing, and the following year, grades 8 through 12. So we're looking at all of those new standards along with curriculum and working with the principals and staff on ensuring that we stay on track with our timeline with that. This past summer, we had over 50 teachers come in during June, July, and August to work on alignment, and it was great to have their energy here and using the time to look at standards, whether they're new or old, but then also looking at their assessments that they're using and how students responded to their instruction this past year and in previous years. So we typically are able to get a lot of teachers to come in and really reflect and do some alignment like that, and this summer continue that. So that was great to have the staff in. And during workshop week, we had our K-12 specialist departments get together across district. So for example, we had our K-12 Phy Ed teachers get together for some time during a workshop day and just talk as a whole department, which allowed the departments to get to know each other just through different staffing changes and just talk about alignment, especially those transition periods between grades 5 and 6 and 8 and 9, and just looking at how the departments are cohesive and building upon each other. And our elementary bullying curriculum through Second Step has been started this year, so we're excited to have that along with our Second Step social emotional curriculum at the elementary levels. So there's some highlights from curriculum and instruction. And then in regards to instructional technology, we have been using Clever more frequently. It's a single sign-on service, and there's badges for our iPads in K1. The single sign-on has really saved a lot of time, students and staff, for remembering all the different usernames and passwords, as everything is synced to their Google Gmail account. So there's been a few bumps, but all in all, it's been pretty smooth, and it has saved a lot of time, both for students and staff. So that has been a great addition. And then we have been working on digital citizenship curriculum with our students, and so we're using the Common Sense Education Framework. And so throughout the course of the year, grades, we had teachers come in this summer and work on some of that alignment, and students in grades K through 9 at the end of this year will have been able to receive some core digital citizenship lessons, and that will continue on indefinitely. So that will be a great piece to ensure student safety as we continue to be more in a digital world, and just wanting to make sure we give our students tools to be safe. And then last but not least, professional development with technology continues to be a focus for us. And we had the Powerful Learning Conference this past August, and that was an in-house staff development opportunity for our staff to attend, and many of the presenters were actually in-house as well, so many of our own staff presented and led to their colleagues, which was great to learn from each other. And then we also, during the course of the year, have after-school professional development sessions that Sean Brandt leads and kind of helps facilitate and gathers other staff to lead those too, and so staff members come as they are able. And some of the sessions are also led by not only our staff, but our instructional technology team. And so there are some teacher leaders that work with Sean Brandt in really determining what sessions we should offer and what are the needs of our staff to make sure that they're receiving up-to-date training on the different technology platforms. As every year there's new things to learn, and we just want to make sure everybody has the tools to be successful. Any questions?
Start of the year.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board, we have 2 open forums this evening. People who are speaking, I just want to remind you, because it's been a while since we've had anyone for open forum. The goal is to provide an orderly and efficient and fair opportunity for those who are presenting to be heard. Please be advised that your remarks are limited to 5 minutes. Any personal attacks by anyone addressing the school board is unacceptable. And if it continues, I will ask you to stop. Members of the audience, you are asked to refrain from any demonstration of support or opposition during or at the conclusion of the speaker's comments. With that, I have Miss Caitlin Call. She would like to discuss bullying and dress code.
Hi.
Hi.
You're just going to want to make sure you talk really close to that microphone.
Like that?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm as scared to be up here as I am at school. I'm gonna be straightforward with this. Please stop saying you care. You don't. And I know that for a fact because you say you want everyone to feel welcome and that they want to go to school. But be realistic. School's for learning, not forcing everyone to accept what they don't believe in. There are boys who say there are girls going in the girls' bathroom and vice versa, and I don't feel welcome or safe. You keep saying stuff like this will never happen, but it is happening. Other states have had issues regarding this, and we will be next. The NPAS proves it. You don't trust kids to use the bathroom the way they should, so why should I trust them? There is no dress code. I could literally go to school in a sports bra and boy short underwear, and I'd be fine. That is extremely inappropriate for school. We are supposed to be learning, not being distracted by clothing or lack thereof. School helps prepare us for the working world. I hate school. In class, we watched a video about victims of racism and homophobia. Not a single one of those kids experienced your regular bullying you experienced in elementary. You imply that it is impossible to not have been bullied for other reasons other than race or being part of the LGBT community. I was physically assaulted on my way home from elementary school. Me and my brother were shoved by a boy who was bigger than both of us. When we reported it, we didn't get help. This year, my own guidance counselor told the girl sitting next to me to talk to the girls behind me because I spoke up about what I disagreed with. It didn't fit your ideals. Your actions speak louder than your words. You only care about certain parts of students at our school. You want us to be inclusive, but what you're really saying is, I don't care unless this is an issue with race or LGBT community.
All right, and our next speaker is Dan Call, and I gave you all his attachment, talking about equity training.
Thank you. It's good to see everyone again. It's been a little while. I do disagree with Caitlin about one thing. One thing she hasn't learned as she's grown older is that sometimes people that care, but that are lacking some moral clarity, do some of the most harm. I've been coming to the school board meetings for several years now. As we have watched what is happening around our community and nation, parents have been asking questions about what is being done about the destructive ideologies, including critical theory and radical gender theory in our district. When Dan King started the conversation by appearing before the board, we were assured that our district rejected critical theory and was not in favor of those principles and would not allow them in our district. When asked to define it, we took the cheap way out to avoid the issue by calling it a theory only studied in law schools. That is a definition intended to avoid the hard discussions that we need. The main pillars of critical theory are that there are groups of victims and oppressors, and they are more important than individual behavior or accomplishment, and that the proof of oppression is different outcomes on average between groups. Critical theory leaves little room for individuals. After the apparent false accusation of racist comments from our girls' basketball fans and coaches, we created a climate task force in our district. It was billed as a discussion for our community. From the meeting agenda, I attempted to, and I could not secure an invite. It was a training session on how to think about these issues the right way. Equity was promoted, and equality was denigrated and presented as a wrong-headed idea. That is wrong. Recently, I have received reports about the training for our staff that our district was provided by Martina Wagner. It seemed to lean heavily on critical theory from the reports. Here were some of the highlights that at least made some of your staff wonder. She recommended the book White Fragility. This book forms the core reading of how to implement critical theory in your life. She promoted an article called Avoiding Racial Equity Detours. And it says, I quote, "In schools committed to racial equity, educators who resist anti-racist," and the term anti-racist has a specific meaning. If you read Abram X. Kendi's book, it takes a lot to agree with. Measures should, and so if we, educators who resist anti-racist, see Abram X. Kennedy's book, they should feel uneasy, isolated on the outskirts of the school's institutional cultures. I mean this literally. The educators least invested in racial equity should wonder whether they belong. I think in New Prague we're succeeding in that. She said we should concern ourselves with exposing privileged students to diverse literature perspectives and inclusion of curriculum. I couldn't get a clear understanding of how she identified the privileged and who she put in victim and oppressor groups. I do not think Caitlin qualifies. I wish I could have verified this myself rather than having to rely on secondhand information. Unfortunately, the only way I can see training in this district is by asking for it through a Freedom of Information request at great expense to myself. We are constantly told we are heard, but we never hear back. And you never answer the questions, never is a bad word, rarely answer the questions publicly about what we are concerned about. I encourage the board to vote on the questions I submitted that come from a group of parents and educators in our district. Provide the answers willingly. Give us access to this training. At the end of the day, we have the right to see it. Sunlight is the best antiseptic. Thank you very much for your time.
That concludes open forum. Moving on to the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Mark? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 6-0. Consent agenda. A motion, please?
So move.
Second.
Right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Passes 6-0. Committee reports. Denny, I'm sorry, policy. Sorry, missed that one.
We had a group of policies, but as usual, we had administration and MSBA clarifications, and everything was updated, revised as needed.
Yes, there was just a few.
Yeah, just a few.
Great. Denny?
At Southwest
Southwest?
Metro, we met last Tuesday on the 20th. At the meeting, we discussed a strategic planning that we're going to be taking on for our district, our intermediate district, and the ways that we're going to go about doing it. We haven't come to a conclusion yet as to who will be facilitating or how we're going to be doing it, but we definitely will be working on a strategic plan for our intermediate district. We had a second reading of seniority list for the district. We talked about a long-term maintenance resolution that we will be working on. We are authorizing the negotiation of a possible purchase of the East Union Elementary School. Purpose of this purchase would be to provide space for students that need help with mental issues that they're struggling with. Right now, we have the facilities to accommodate, but these numbers are growing, and we need to that will allow us to serve more students. Looking at negotiating a possible purchase of that site.
That site empty right now? In East Union, you said?
Yes.
It's empty?
It's an elementary school that's out in the country.
I know right where it is.
But
Okay.
it's not being used.
The board for that district decided to close it.
Oh, that's too
What district is that?
East Carver County.
It is Carver. Okay.
bad. CPAC? Yet?
No. Wellness, no.
Early childhood?
Got some updates. They currently have 313 preschool students attending the program this year. The first early learning parent advisory meeting will be this Wednesday evening. The New Prague American Legion will be donating 15 flags and wall mounts to the early learning classrooms, and they are very grateful for this generous donation. There are 14 weekly ECFE classes running, and it includes Monday and Tuesday evenings. Tara Lund, one of the parent and family teachers, is continuing her outreach to in-home daycare providers, and they can sign up for a time for her to come to their home and share developmentally appropriate activities, songs, and learning games. And there's also information for parents to help their children learn and grow. Many special events are being planned. They're going to be visiting Barton's Pumpkin Patch, and they'll be having an outdoor story walk next week. That's it.
The outdoor story walk, that's what Mary talked about last time she presented, where they went from location to location.
They take the families take a walk and read each page of the story as they stroll, and then there's our activities and a fun surprise at
Right.
the end.
Awesome.
Kind of a cool thing. They're actually doing that at a couple of markets that I work at. Watch the parents and
Yep. Good. Great. And then fitness and aquatic, Matt's not present, so nothing there. So that brings us to our superintendent report, good news.
Yeah, I guess Tony took a lot of it away, I guess, but homecoming this week, busy week, but again, just like I talked about back in August, it's been a good start to the school year. It's, I think, many comments by our staff, it's just good to be back and to normal after a couple of years we went through with COVID restrictions and stuff like that. So, and then I guess special mention too, again, like Tony talked about the October 6th Hall of Fame. So encourage people to come out and support that ceremony. It'll be a nice get together for some wonderful people. So that's all I have.
Brings us to our actions, MCA testing data.
All right, so this is just a recap from a couple weeks ago when I shared at the work session a deeper kind of dive with data. Tonight I'm just going to reflect on our MCA data as a whole. And so here you'll see our 5 buildings. The light blue is our school district and the dark blue is the state average. And so oftentimes when we look at our MCA data, we want to see that nice discrepancy with the state and ourselves. And you'll see here with our math data that all of our buildings have a nice discrepancy above the state average. And I also want to emphasize and share with you that math in this regard was tested in grades 3 through 8 and then 11th grade. And the reading data here, reading data is tested grades 3 through 8 also, and then at the high school level, it's grade 10. And so this data is reflected here. Again, all buildings are above the state average. And then by grade level, to show a comparison as well, looking at our district along with the state average, here are all the grades that were tested, and you know, certainly some celebrations, but again, all grades were well above the state average, and so we were happy to see the success there. And then our reading data as well, broken down by grade level. Again, all grades had a significant percent above the state average across the board. And then science is tested 3 times for a student in grades 5, 8, and then it's 10th or 11th grade, it's when they take biology, which in our district is actually more 10th graders than 11th graders, but it's any student enrolled in high school biology. And so here again, all levels were above the state average. And so that's just a recap of our highlights. And also we shared with our administrative team the comparable data that we look at, and we ranked very high when we looked at our MC data in all 3 subjects when we were looking at our comparable districts. And so that was another success that we found, definitely in the top 1 to 3 depending on the subject, but all of our buildings really did well this year on the MCA. So we were very happy to see the strong success. Questions on the data?
Thanks, Tor.
Right, we have the preliminary levy.
Good evening. Tonight we need to approve the preliminary levy. We have a statutory deadline of September 30th, which is Friday, so we'll approve this levy this evening. First of all, the preliminary levy is going to be approved at what we call maximum tonight, is because MDE is still finalizing calculations. For us, we also have the issue of our voter levy requests on November 8th, and if one or both of those pass, obviously that would be included in our levy. The final levy is approved after the Truth in Taxation presentation on December 12th, And the numbers I'm going to present tonight do not include the November 8th levy requests. Just try to summarize the major changes by fund here. Our general fund levy went up by 1.77% or $105,000. Mainly, there was we've got that equalization aid that I explain every time I talk about a levy. As our property values go up, the equalization formula goes down. So we have to levy a higher amount and we get less in state aid. And that was true for the local optional operating capital and LTFM. We have $15,000 higher levy for unemployment payments. So last year 2 years ago, we levied $40,000. That was COVID, and we didn't know what was going to happen. That year, we actually paid zero, so there's a negative adjustment for that. In 21-22, we ended up paying some of that, some of the unemployment costs, although some federal grants covered a lot of that, so we ended up not paying $200,000 or $300,000 in unemployment costs. That was very nice, so we're not going to be passing that on to our local taxpayers. And then we have some higher than normal negative adjustments due to the 2021 enrollment. We're always levying a year in advance, so when enrollment comes in lower, then we have negative adjustments in the future. Community services is down 0.88% or $3,500. Basically, we ended up levying $5,000 more for school-age childcare. There is still an ongoing need that is growing for disabled children in our Kids Company program and trying to meet the needs of those students. Debt service went down 1.32% or $105,000. Our debt service schedule is not even, so it went down slightly. We also had a little bit less of a negative adjustment. Our total levy is $14,269,966 as of today. That is a decrease of 0.03% and a decrease of $4,300. So very stable levy from year to year. Estimated tax impact. So district-wide, if property values did not change from 2022, the levy would actually decrease an average of $262 a year. That's because everybody else's property value would have gone up so much, and it would have been a significant decrease. However, most values went up very high. So in red there, if a home value increased over 15%, which the majority of the properties fell into this year, this approval tonight would be a negative 7.4% or $55 a year. And that's per the Scott County what if. So you have a situation where property values increase substantially and our levy is pretty flat. And so then the overall levy goes down. And depending upon what your property value increased will depend on how much your levy changes. That's clear.
What happens if property value decreases?
Well, then, individual property taxes would go down, obviously, but it's the same kind of a thing where you're spreading that levy over a smaller amount, and then that would cause an increase in taxes. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. That's the last slide. So, again, I'm asking you to approve the levy tonight, the preliminary levy at maximum that allows us to continue to make adjustments as MDE recalculates formulas, as well as the levy ballot measures in November.
I move we approve the levy. Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
Passes 6-0.
Are we here? Where are we? I can do this, but I just need to know where I'm at here. Here. Okay, very good.
All right.
Okay.
All right, as you unanimously approved to go for a levy request, on November 8th. There'll be a vote on that. I'm going to go over the presentation that I'll be giving. I think got a lot of meetings in October here to present to different, we got open community groups, Chamber of Commerce, Rotary, all the PACs at the different buildings, and then obviously with their staff, and then we got still a few more to schedule too. So I'll be presenting, my purpose, just like tonight, is just to present the facts, more information about it, and the reason for the levy request. So I'm going to go over that with you right now. I think, and this is my 10th year superintendent over the past 9 years, we only ask for what we need and when we need it. And the operating levy that was renewed last time was in 2017. We increased by $100 per student. As you see when I go over these slides, we're at $246 per student right now. And as I go over this, I'm obviously go over what our fund balance is going to be, more information about the referendum, and some comparisons with some of the local districts that we have, so you have a good perspective. Start with the current reality. Our unassigned fund balance is below our school board's 8% goal. So what we're projecting at the end of this year, it's going to be below 8%, and it will continue to decrease each year unless we make budget adjustments or get additional revenue. Whoops. So, like I said, why now? Again, the fund balance going below 8%, and a big impact has been COVID on our schools. The first year, I'm going to show you some charts here. We decreased enrollment, and that's one thing where we've had a healthy fund balance for the first 6-7 years of my superintendency. We always grew about 1.2%, but we dropped 180 students, brought some students back, and are down a little bit this year. So that, our student needs, we wanted to keep reasonable class sizes, and I'll talk about that. Especially in the elementary, we've gone down, but we've also cut sections or teachers' positions in regards to that too, and support for behavioral health. And then obviously, inflation has had an impact too. So you can see our fund balance going back to 14-15, and probably most importantly is really the unassigned fund balance where there's no tags to. You can see back then it was $9 million, and we stayed pretty strong, pretty flat, again because we had growing enrollment, not huge, but just enough to keep us going. And you can see rate in 1920, after that year with COVID and the restrictions we had from the state, that's when it started to drop. So 2021 dropped to 6.4, and then 5.2, and we're projecting the fund balance to be 2.8 at the end of this year, which is 3.7%, so well below our fund balance goal. COVID impact, like I said, we're down 152 students in the elementary. You can see the graph there. It goes from 1920 to 22-23. But we've, reduced staff too. So 5.5 sections have gone down also with that. Middle school was probably the biggest surprise this past year. There's a drop there, but the high school has gone up 61 students over the course of this time too. People will say this is, brought up to me more than once, about the federal grants that have come in. And one thing to remember, we received money from these grants, but a lot of it was restricted for certain uses only. Some of it was spent to offset enrollment loss, but a lot of COVID expenses. And it was based on these federal grants, was basically on free and reduced lunch. So you can see what we get per pupil, similar to Prior Lake, and some of the other neighboring districts, how much they received. And it's a little frustrating because we're all trying to educate students, and I'm not sure should have had that great an impact on the funding on that. Now the referendum amount right now, like I said earlier, we're at $246 per pupil unit. The average home valued at $300,000, so the local taxes for a school district is about $130 per year. So this brings in about $1.1 million for 4,586 adjusted pupil units for this year. And this levy referendum expires in 2024. So you can see general fund revenue sources, the majority you can see comes from the state. It's over 81%. The part that we're talking about tonight, local property taxes, is just under 13%. You can see federal sources is, you know, people think it's a lot more than that, but it's under 5%. And I could talk about special education, which they said they'd fully fund back in the day when they passed laws, which they don't. And then 1.5% is other. So with the general education formula, and this is through the state for state funding, usually increases about 2.0% per year. And obviously our expenses are more for that, so to account for the difference, basically we can, you know, use some of our fund balance, which we have in the past, make budget cuts. We've made some soft budget cuts the past couple of years too. But what's offset everything for us, like I said, for 7 years in a row, is that we've had growing enrollment to go with that. And obviously another factor is to ask local taxpayers for additional revenue. With the state, when it's 2%, is not going to keep up with things. So unless you have increased enrollment every year, that's going to happen. So Schools for Equity in Education statistics, there's a large variation between districts. In the state of Minnesota, out of 330 districts, the highest district gets almost 19,000 per student. The lowest is 9,078. You can see we're just above the lowest. We're at 9,580. With state and local funding we're talking about, which is, you know, 94% of our funds. So we rank right now 323rd out of 330 school districts. With special education funding, we're 236 out of 330. And for local levies, like I told you, we're $246 per student. We're 195th out of 330. So what are we asking? To repeal the 246 levy and replace it with a $375 increase, which would bring it to 621. And the second question is a technology levy of $1.5 million per year, strictly dedicated to our current technology funding. The two questions are not dependent on each other, but I want to just go over a second here and explain it. The operating levy does not include ag land. It's just house, garage, and 1 acre. So that's what the market value of that is. And it can only be used for operating expenses. So that's salary, benefits, instructional, general supplies, just building operations. As you agreed on, you voted on for 6 years, just like we did last time. I told you it passed in 2017. And it's based on the number of pupils in the district. So what it would bring in revenue is $1.6 million. And you know, what happens from year to year is based on enrollment. The technology levy is based on net tax capacity. Ag land is included, so it's house, garage, and agricultural land, and it's dedicated for technology expenses only. So you can see there, support student learning, for staffing, for technology, infrastructure, and software. And again, it would be the same thing for 6 year, and it would be paid on the tax rate, and projected revenue in the first year would very similar to the other one, is $1.5 million. And the revenue in future years, it always varies depending on the net tax capacity. How much will it cost taxpayers? And this is where, remember what we discussed, the needs of the district. There has to be a balance, obviously. We're not going to go out and ask for the moon. It's going to be based on need, but also what we thought the financial support. We agreed that we wanted to keep it under $29,000 or under $29 per month on a $300,000 home. So the operating levy increase is $375, would be about approximately $17 per month on a $300,000 home. The technology levy would be $12.25 per month. And again, the difference is because of the agriculture. And obviously, if it does not pass, we need to renew the current levy again and look at it in 2023. Like it says there on our website, we'll have a tax impact calculator that will be linked to all our information on there. So the ballot questions, question 1, operating levy increase of $375 per pupil, which would bring in $1.65 million. Question 2 is technology referendum, 1.5. Again, they're not dependent on each other. They're separate questions. Sandy's projections right now, there's a lot of variety of factors that will go into this, but our best projection, obviously, if both questions pass, we'd still have to make budget adjustments, but it would be under $1 million. If one would pass and the other one didn't, we're estimating approximately $2 million in cuts. And if we have a no, if they both go down, we're looking at about $4 million in cuts. Just a little more information from MDE, Minnesota Department of Education. I wanted to show you local districts, what they have in place. And as you can see there, Shakopee, Lakeville, and Northfield have both an operating levy and a technology levy in place. The amounts that they're bringing in on their operating levies, as you compare to us, we're at 246. The next closest one is Prior Lake at 623. Shakopee's 1.2 million, Lakeville 1.4, and Northfield's at 1.8 million. I'm saying this wrong, 1,840,000 per pupil we're talking here, not million. What am I saying here? So that's what they bring in per pupil. So whether it's 1,200, 1,400, 1,800, you can see on the 7-county metro average is just under 1,400, and the state average is 924. The technology levies that are in place, of course, us and Prior Lake do not have them. Shakopee, Lakeville, and Northfield all have capital levies or technology levies in place that bring in that amount of money also. The question you might have is, where is some of the smaller districts around here? And it's just simply the course offerings, the programs that are offered, in the number of buildings they have, it's just not a fair comparison in regards to that. Revenue per student, you can see just a little bar graph here compared to those other local districts, where we're at compared to them. So that's revenue we get per student from federal, state, and local. And again, obviously state is the largest amount, and you can see the top, that's our local operating levy. Expenditures per student, are we spending responsibly? And as you can see there, the amount we're spending per student is lower than the other local area school districts. So that includes salary, wages, employee benefits, and other expenditures. Percent expenses by program. On the far right, I will start there at the large bars there. Most of our money obviously is spent in the classroom. That's what it says, regular instruction expenses. So we're at 49.6%. The other districts are average around 45.3. I know Leo at our previous meeting, that was a great question, just amount that we're spending on administration or district office staff. We're at 6.3% compared to the other districts at 7.1. So early voting began on the 23rd already. Election day is November 8th. So like I said, it's going to be a busy month for me. I do not, when I just give the information, give the factual information, what the needs are of the district. And when I present, it's not a vote yes campaign or anything like that. That's not my job. I'm not supposed to do that. It's just present what the need is and why we're doing what we're doing. So I'll open up for any questions or comments from the board.
I would just suggest for the tech levy, gonna get a lot of raised eyebrows asking for 1.5. I'd stress that what exactly that goes to and why that much is needed.
Okay.
Because it's,
Yeah, and our technology right now is it 1.9 million actually?
Which is 1.9 million.
All right, that's a good point.
yeah, but I'm just saying, with asking for 1.5, there's gonna be a whole lot of, okay, that's a
Yeah,
lot of money.
and technology is obviously an area that just keeps going up too. That and I would say that and special education costs are our two things that have gone up the most over the years. Any other else? Okay, yeah.
Good, it's clear. Nice. nice.
I think it's good too.
Yeah, I want to thank Sean Brandt as our technology integration specialist. Him and Sandy have worked hard on this and putting all the figures together, the finances and everything like that. And we've taken a lot of slides out. We started with a lot, but we keep, the last couple of weeks just keep working on that to make it understandable for people and so they can make an informed decision. All right, thank you.
We have a couple resolutions.
Yes, we do.
Let you take it.
The first one is a resolution of governing board supporting Form A application to Minnesota State High School League Foundation. Do I have a motion to consider this resolution?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the Minnesota State High School League Foundation is offering grants and funding to assist schools in recognizing, promoting, and funding extracurricular participation by high school students in athletic and fine arts programs. Therefore, be it resolved that the Governing Board of Independent School District 721 New Prague supports the school's application to the Minnesota State High School League Foundation for a Form A grant to offset student activity fees. How do you vote on this, Jean?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 6-0. The next resolution concerns acceptance of a donation for Falcon Ridge Parent Advisory Committee. Do I have a motion to consider this resolution?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the Falcon Ridge Elementary Parent Advisory Committee wishes to donate $14,755.03 towards the zip line on the Falcon Ridge Playground. Now therefore be it resolved by the New Prague Area Board of Education that they shall accept the donation under no conditions. How do you vote on this, Leo?
Yes.
Kim?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes 6-0.
We have approval of New Prague Area Education Foundation grants. I have 2 grants. Do you have anything to read on that?
I don't have
No?
a resolution.
Okay. So I am looking for Ravenstream grant for 2,400. Provide more vertical learning space for students. And on Eagle View for boogie boards for a total of $431.76. A total of $2,831.76.
And could I just add, this is covered by the foundation, and
Correct.
therefore it's not a donation from the public.
Oh, sorry, you're right. So,
I move to accept the foundation grant.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Item passes 6-0. I have nothing else, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item, we are adjourned.